Alright, so the next issue I'm going to tackle on the BMW is the horn. So ever since I bought the car, I've had an issue with the horn, and hopefully, well, most likely your issue is probably the same. One of the horns will go out and either will sound, you'll have a high tone or a low tone. So there's two horns on the vehicle. One of them's a high tone, one of them's a low tone, and then they mix them, obviously they mix together and then give you the normal sound of your horn. Now when I press on my horn, I only get one of the two sides working. So there's a high horn and a low horn. And so in order to test it, you just put the key in the ignition or turn the car on without starting the vehicle. So it'll go like that, it'll beep a few times, and then the horn will be working. Okay, so now I'm going to test the horn. And you can see that it sounds weird. And I could tell standing outside the vehicle while I'm doing that, that only one of the two sides is working. Actually, I can hear that it's coming from the left. And where that is right back here. Behind the tire is this inner fender. And you got to remove that and get the access to the horn. So there's one horn beside this side underneath the left-hand light. That's the high horn, which I can tell is working on mine. And then on the other side, there is the low horn. So what I'm going to do, take off the tire, get access to this inner fender well, and remove this black plastic here. And I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so there's 16 of these 8mm screws that you have to remove. You don't necessarily have to remove the ones for there's a vent here that attaches at the back. You don't necessarily have to remove those, but I did just to get that out of the way and give me something to grab onto here. So down here, all up along this edge here, there's several. And then where it meets the next piece of plastic, there's several here. So just keep looking around for all the plastic parts. There's one down here that is a 10mm, I believe. I haven't removed that one yet because I don't think I need to. I can probably just pull this away enough to get access to what's behind. And so I'll do that and see and tell you if I need to remove that other one. Well, I found out what the problem is. Some type of rodent has eaten through my wire here. So this is the wire and the connection, the two-prong connection that goes into the back of the horn. And so I'm going to show you how I got to it, because it's not easy to get to, especially on my vehicle. I have this cooler, oil cooler here. That's either that of air conditioning, might be, it's either oil or air conditioning, not sure, but it doesn't matter. I have a cooler here, air intercooler that has duct work behind it that you can't see. There's all this duct work back here. And so I had to remove this duct, which is a brake cooling duct, just an air duct. The air comes out here and is goes back to the brakes here and kind of cools the brakes. So I had to kind of remove that, but not really remove it in order to get to this. And I'll show you what I did here. So let me see if I can get the light on this appropriately. So what there is right here, there's two. There's one here and one down right here. Two little nubs that go through these holes. There's one hole right there, and there's another hole up there. And so I just pushed it from the front. I pushed on it in order to unseat it from those two holes there, and that gave me a little bit of motion with this duct, enough so that I can cram my hand up here and get to the connection, which I'll show you. Okay, so what I'm looking at right here is the horn right there. I know it's really hard to see, but on the back of it there is an electrical connection that I could reach up with my hand and wiggle out that connection. Press on the little clip that's on the back of it and then wiggle it out. And so I got that off, and that's when I noticed it was all ripped up or torn up by a rodent. Now if I look right behind here, that cooler, you can see where they ate through the connection, right? If it focuses, right there, there is a electrical connection that I can see that has been eaten through, and so that's what I got to get to in order to make a new connection. Okay, in order to get access to this wire back here, which you can see better now, that end right there, just take apart, there is a 10mm bolt that goes here and two 13mm nuts, one here and one up here, and then you can dislodge this. Be careful with, because there's rubber hoses up here, so you don't want to bend it or crank on it too much, but you can move it out of the way enough. And you probably have to undo these other bolts here. These are 8mm that held on this plastic bracket behind. So there's a plastic ductwork behind, and then there's some 8mm here, and here, so 3 of them that look like this. And if you take those off, then this ductwork will be separated and you can move it around easier. Okay, now I can get to this wire pretty easily. Now I just need to make a little bit of space for myself and then cut some new ends and reconnect it to the connection here, and then plug it back into my horn, test it out, see if it works. Well, the rats really did a number on this wire, and there's several breaks throughout it. This one's really short, so I'm going to cut this one off at the same height here, make some fresh wire available, and then I'm going to splice in about 4 or 5 inches of new wire that I have lying around. Okay, so I was able to move them in such a way and get enough exposed barely to get some wires stripped and available. I'm going to use some waterproof connectors that I will seal up by heating them and make sure I get a good connection. So I'll connect these on here, crimp them, and then connect them to my rebuilt wire, which I have soldered on this end. Okay, now I've reconnected all the wires and heat or shrink wrapped the connections to make sure they're watertight. I'm going to take some electrical tape and wrap it around the whole thing to keep it tidy, and then plug it back in. Okay, now I've reconnected it, and you can see that how it goes on there. That's the back side of the horn, and the electrical connection is right there. If you follow the red wire, I wrapped it in red electrical tape, and then the push connection goes right there. You just press it into place, and then you're done. Let's go test it out. Okay, so you just turn the car back on without starting it, and you can test the horn. Ah, that's much better. Yeah, that high horn really makes it sound stupid. So that's it. I fixed it all up. I'm gonna go over a little bit about how to put it back together, but it's just the opposite of taking it apart. But I'll cover that as well. Alright, first part you should do is down the bottom here, this air duct that goes behind this radiator. Make sure that that's seated correctly. There's a little bit of it over here on the right side that will sit. It kind of goes over the edge of this other piece, So make sure it sits correctly and that it properly fills in that air vent that comes through the front of the vehicle. And then this whole thing should line up pretty close with the two nuts that you're gonna have to put on and the bolt over here, and then the screws 1, 2, and 3 to hold that ductwork on the front. And next you can attach this air duct. This is just for the brake cooling, remember. So you push forward on it and you can get it to go around this other plastic piece here and attach these two little pins that kind of go through the holes. There's one here and then one up right up there that you can barely see, but those two pins kind of hold it into place. Alright, next you fit the shroud for the inner wheel well, and to do that you feed in the bottom part first, and then on the bottom here make sure it's all lined up appropriately and all the bolt holes are going to line up, and then you just start connecting. I'm going to start connecting them down here, starting over here, and then move my way into the wheel well. Okay, once you got all the connections or the bolts back on, these are all 8mm, remember, then you're done. Make sure that they line up. This top part right here, you need to pull back the top part and feed in the front of the wheel well liner up underneath it. So you just have to pull it back. It should have enough slack so that you can do that. That's it. Glad I didn't have to purchase a new horn in order to fix the problem, so that saved me 50 bucks. But if you do have to purchase one, the hardest thing probably would be to remove the bolt that's holding it to the actual mounting point. You probably have to get a couple of extensions with some universal joints in order to get that bolt off. I'm sure it's probably a 10mm or something holding the horn in, but I think there's only one bolt. You take that bolt off and then you can get the horn off if you have to replace the actual horn. Luckily I didn't have to do that, so I saved myself some money and just had some wires lying around that I could use. That's it. Hope this helped somebody, and leave a comment or question in the section below if you have any issues. Talk to you in the next one.